It was a success for the league and drivers. We have seen 25 drivers participating in the races.
Rob Timpen wins his home race. Nearwood has it. Nearwood is champion. Linus and Thomas, champions in teams.
Good evening and welcome to round number 2 of the Winter GT3 Challenge by RF2 Racingleague, and we are tonight at the Sepang International Circuit. My name is Sebastian Gerhart and I will be the lonely host tonight because Lukas Schürmann is sick, called in sick today, and of course we're wishing him well and get fit back for commentating as soon as possible. So I'll be here alone, but I hope I can cover up what is going on here tonight on this circuit. Just in our live picture right now, that's Rob Timpen, the fastest driver from the last round from the season opening in Bathurst. He took a double victory. But what happened in Bathurst and everything around that we have in a very small video spoken this time by Lukas Schürmann. So he is with us today, just not live, and we will be back in about 90 seconds. So let's find out what happened 2 weeks ago at the season opening of the RF2 Racingleague Winter Challenge in Bathurst.
It was a success for the league and drivers. We have seen 25 drivers participating in the races.
Well, it looks like we have some technical issues with that small video. Wonder why. Downloaded everything, started it, and for some reason it just broke down after a few seconds. We don't know what happened there. You can find that video on YouTube when you check the RF2 Racingleague on Facebook, but it's something we'll figure out later. So let's stay with the live picture and stay with Rob Timpen. Of course, tonight on this track, things will be easier for all the drivers because, of course, the Sepang International Circuit, which was built primarily for Formula 1 cars, there is enough space for racing with these GT3 cars, these much slower GT3 cars. Bathurst, of course, was maybe the trickiest track in the entire season, so maybe a good track to start with, and then things are getting easier now. Rob Timpen missed that turn entirely, but I think that was on purpose, just leaving the track by pressing escape. Quickest driver from the training, Juan Franruano, and trying to set his first lap time, and we only have 9 minutes and 30 seconds left, and that's not that much on this circuit. 5.543 kilometers long, respective 3.44 miles, so that's quite some time, or quite some way you have to cover with these cars. It looks like the McLaren is working pretty good on this track. Francisco Guerra, out his entire name. He was racing for Storm Racing, but had 2 DNFs in the race in Bathurst. Both times some problems. Both were accidents. Slight touching the wall, then spinning out, and then the race was over for him. But now he's showing his true potential here in Sepang with the quickest lap time, and that's wow, 0.3 of a second quicker than Niklas Porbadnik. Bentley driver. Who had a pretty good start into the season, 6th position and a podium in Bathurst. And for all of you who start watching the GT3 Winter Challenge for the first time tonight, just some information how this works out. So the qualification actually is the qualifying for both races. So 2 30-minute races are coming up soon for this time, and if you set the pole, in this case like Juan Franruano at the moment at least, you have pole for both races, so there's no reverse grid or something like that. It is the qualifying for both races, so it's even much more important to set a proper race time or lap time here in this very short session. 7 minutes to go. That's Porbadnik. Oh, and he missed that turn, definitely. Way too quick. Though there's a lot of space on this track, it's not easy to drive because it's pretty technical. Works best with those high aerodynamic Formula 1 cars, or Formula cars in general. But it's always a bit tricky to drive it with those GT cars. No matter if it's GT3 or GTE. Some of those turns are really built for aerodynamics and not for mechanical grip. That makes it difficult to be really quick on this track. We can see it by the lap times. So some huge gaps there. Rob Timpen in 3rd with his Corvette. Already about 0.4 of a second behind the lap time of Niklas Porbadnik. And maybe Porbadnik can set an improvement. No, that didn't work out. So let's take a look at Rob Timpen. Exiting the final corner. See the pit lane on the left side from our view, but this is also not too Best lap time for Timpen. Christoph Niewood. Who had a pretty good result in Bathurst. Finished his first race in 3rd and the second in 5th. So he's someone you have to look out for in the 2 races here on the Sepang circuit as well. This will take some time for Christoph Niewood to set new lap time, so let's switch to Kostas Kantsuras, the Greek driver for Storm Racing. Also troublesome evening in Bathurst. First race he didn't finish, second race was 8th position, but you got a feeling that he could be faster in his McLaren, and he shows here in the qualifying so far. And it's 8.870. That puts him less than a 1/10 of a second behind Christoph Niewood. So there's definitely a chance for Kostas Kantsuras to move up into 4th and maybe into second row of the starting grid. Then it's Björn Wallmeier in 6th, Daniel Christoph 7th. From 8th currently Stefan Dänecke, who's pretty close behind Daniel Christoph. Let's see how Kostas Kantsuras will finish this time. Final corner coming up. Usually one of those turns where you try to make a move against your opponent in front using the slipstream, being the side as late as possible to take a position under braking. But Kostas Kantsuras also stays in 5th. Björn Wallmeier. Sadly, it's a bit tough to compare sector times, but it's shown in green. That means at least there is some improvement for Björn Wallmeier in the second sector. So let's stay with him, because he's less than a 1/10 of a second behind Kostas Kantsuras. So he might catch the McLaren driver this time. Final corner coming up. Huge hairpin. The exit of that turn is very, very important, and Björn Wallmeier sets a new personal best, and that brings him up to 3rd position for this qualifying. But there's still a few drivers underway for catching him, or maybe getting even further up in the starting grid. Kostas Kantsuras, that's his outlap, if I'm not mistaken. Daniel Christoph now in 7th. Front of Stefan Dänecke, but he's also still on his outlap. So, David Haas, just with the improvement up to 7. And Christoph, he will have one more chance at a new lap time. Nathan van der Nest. He has a 10-second stop-and-go penalty for the first race this evening, causing an accident in one race in Bathurst. So that starting position, will definitely go away during the first race when he has to come into the pits. Usually no pit stop within these 30-minute races. Then it's Kostas Kaloudis. And as you can see, we have some new skins on these cars. Some were still missing and some weren't finished so far. So now we have the proper skin on the Corvette of Kostas Kaloudis. Sorry, car. He's racing for TCS Off Racing by Viscera Esports. He also had some trouble in Bathurst. Didn't finish the first race, but at least made it up into the top 10 in the second race. Thomas Andrea Miaisauer, currently only from 12th. He was pretty quick in the first. Finished in 7th and in 4th position in the 2 races. But now only starting from 12th in his Mercedes AMG GT3. If it stays like this, 2.5 tenths of a second behind Kostas Kaloudis. Still has some space to cover for his final lap. Official qualifying time is over. So now it's the last chance for everyone who's still driving. Second sector doesn't look like it's been an improvement for Thomas Andrea Miaisauer. The back straight. Looking for turn 15. The final hairpin. Also the Corvette behind him. I think that's either the car of Rob Timpin or Christo Niewood. It must be Rob Timpin because the teammate of Rob Timpin, Christo Niewood, is already in the pits. No improvement by Thomas Andrea Miaisauer. But looks like Kostas Kantsuras just made a slight jump in the starting grid. So Stefan Deneke still going. Then it's Mike Lyra. As well as Linus Lundvall. Just finished now and he stays in 17th. Stefan Deneke, oh, and that's a big improvement for Stefan Deneke. His last shot he had in this qualifying, he moves up to 5th position. He was one of the quickest drivers in Suzuka in the preseason race, so it's not that much of a surprise that he gets that high up in the starting grid, but it took him a lot of time. So now it's still Mike Lyra still going and Jürgen Wallmeier in front, no, behind him. Oh, that's Björn Wallmeier. He finished in 3rd. Mike Lyra stays in 15th, but Jürgen Wallmeier with a slight improvement up to 19th position. Now ahead of Marco Caglio, who also has a 10-second stop-and-go penalty for race number 1. But Juan Juano Guerra, he's the one who will start from pole in both races. Of course, we're looking forward how he can handle first meters to the first corner against the Bentley of Niklas Pobatnik and the 2 Corvettes of Björn Wallmeier and Rob Timpin. Nice to see 3 different cars in the first 3 spots for the race start, and now we're just waiting for the warm-up session and switch to race. For those who turned in later, just the information again. Lukas Schürmann, he is sick, and that's why I'm alone now for this broadcast here tonight. I'm not sure if he's watching, can handle my English, but usually it worked quite well, I think. And I hope you also enjoy watching the stream here on P1 Media. Second round of the GT3 Winter Challenge by RF2 Racingleague. We're actually missing quite some drivers, only 21 drivers on the server at the moment. 34 drivers are listed, but it's September 2nd Advent, so probably that's one of the reasons why not everyone is here tonight. Maybe still staying with family. That's fine. It's the last race this year for the GT3 Winter Challenge. We will continue in January next year. Everyone has some time for family during the Christmas time, Christmas Eve and everything. Oh, and Rob Timpen a bit too quick in the first few corners. Already threw that car away. That must have been turn 3. Going a bit wide. And instead long, you might call it second back straight. I was mistaken. It was already further up in on the track. Not so many distinctive spots on this track to figure out every corner. It was better in Suzuka or in Bathurst. Maybe one of the reasons why not everyone likes the tracks that were created by Hermann Tieke, the German architect. Responsible for several by now well-known racetracks. Heading for the first corner. Let's take a look. Difficult part down through this kind of chicane, then now down to turn 3. Good section into a slight hairpin. Turn 4, going a bit wide here. But he missed that final braking spot. Through turn 5, a long left-hander. Again, difficult with the GT car. Turn 5. Turn 6, and then coming up to a double right-hander, so it's short kink, then not really going into straight line, just turning in for the next right-hander, accelerating down to turn 9, a hairpin, slightly over a crest into turn 10, long right-hander into a 90-degree right-hander, again braking down in of a turn. It's difficult with these cars because they tend to oversteer then. You're already in that turning move and then hitting the brakes, the weight goes to the front. Less weight on the rear axle and then there's less grip of course. And the car tends to spin out. While Rob Timpen is training the starting procedure. Because we have a standing start, of course, here in the GT3 Winter Challenge. Yellow flags because of the AMG of Thomas Andrea Mihail-Sauer. Again. It's a combination of the slight traction control system of these GT3 cars and of course working with the clutch to get the best start. When it says green, 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 this will happen soon. Because now official warm-up time is over as well and we are waiting for all the drivers finishing their last lap or maybe just stop the car and switch to the pits. To be underway with the first race of tonight's GT3 Winter Challenge race on the Sepang International Circuit. Maybe everyone coming for the back straight or the start finish straight. Just practicing the starting procedure as well. Or just getting a feeling for the cars with a much more fuel, of course, in the tank. And maybe some different settings for the tires, because always the qualifying setup, of course, is usually built more aggressive. But always close to the spot that you are almost spinning out if you just make a slight mistake, and that's something you don't need for a race. If you get a slight bump from behind because someone makes a mistake, you don't want to lose your car. So maybe pulling up a few more degrees on the rear wing. Changes other parts of the suspension. But mainly, of course, the different amount of fuel in the car, which increases the weight and, of course, puts some changes through the corners and to the lap times as well. Linus Lundvall still on the track. He's also practicing the starting procedure for last time. Wolf Racing driver from Sweden. And everyone is waiting for him. This is over as well. And maybe everyone is shouting, "Come on, Linus. Come on, bring the car into the pits. Stop it. We want to start with this race." So now everyone in the pits. And now everything is set for the race start of the first race this evening. 30 minutes on the Sepang International Circuit. Here with the GT3 Winter Challenge of RF2 Racingleague. We're still waiting for the pole sitter Juan Franjuano. Getting into the starting positions. And now everyone is ready, waiting for the lights to go green. And we are off racing. Everyone is waiting. Just a moment, it was shown as in green up there, and a good start from Rob Timpin. An amazing start. Just already passed Björn Wahlmeier, and he's also making a move against Niklas Provatnik down into the first corner. And also trying to attack even Juan Franjuano, but he can cover it with the McLaren. Now there's coming up a left-hander, but Rob Timpin already close to him. Some slight touching, maybe Niklas Provatnik can profit from it. No, he stays behind. But Rob Timpin fighting against Juan Franjuano, against him, and he is through. Rob Timpin starting from forward. He takes the lead within a few corners. Amazing start by the Corvette driver. Juan Franjuano down to second, then it's Niklas Provatnik. Björn Wahlmeier already dropped down, and there happened something to him. So where is Wahlmeier? He lost a lot of positions. He's down to, whoa, what happened here? He's down to 18th position. We will take a look at that soon enough. But first of all now, let's wait and take a look at the lead, what's going on there. Niklas Provatnik in third, Christo Niewood already up to fourth. Then it's David Haas, chased by Nathan van den Est. Thomas Andrea Sauer already moved up to seventh. Some pretty good starts for a few drivers, but now let's take a look what happened with... have to make a slight change here. Just give me a second. Sorry for that. And then let's just take a look what happened to Björn Wahlmeier. I have to go up that list very far high because Mike Lyra had a slight off track. Björn Wahlmeier, and I found it, and let's take a look at that. So that's Björn Wallmeier. Why don't we see a replay session? Sorry, this didn't work. Ah, here it is. So now heading down to the first corner. Björn Wallmeier on the outside. The yellow Bentley, that's Niklas Provatnik. Then it's Dänicke late on the brakes, and that was some contact there. So that's the reason. Dänicke too late under braking, and then he got hit by another McLaren, and Wallmeier again crashing into the McLaren of Dänicke, and that's also why Mike Lyra was going wide, and that was the car then behind the McLaren of and there's now the pit stop. That's Marcelo Tocco, and now I want to check where's the McLaren. So some of the drivers are in. There's Caglio, and that was Christoph, who was also hit by the car of Dänicke and then spun out as well. So that's the reason why Björn Wallmeier is currently down to 13th. He already moved up 3 positions after that accident. Is now behind Linus Lundvall. Trying to get back at least into the top 10. Right, let's look to the front drivers, and that's Niklas Provatnik, who dropped down to 4th. Got overtaken by Christo Niewood. Juan Fanfano, he wants to take this first position back from Rob Timpen. And I'm curious how Rob Timpen managed to start so quick. Hopefully for him it wasn't a jump start. It's already quite the gap between Niklas Provatnik and David Haas behind in 5th, chased by Thomas Anjamir Sauer. I think there's there's another car in between. I think that's the car of Marcelo Tocco. No. Nick David? No. Oh, is it the Corvette by Mike Lyra? Yes. So he's now between 5th and 6th position. Maybe he has to take a look behind him because he has to let Thomas Anjamir Sauer through. If the AMG driver is close enough, then it's Stefan Dänicke in 7th. And I'm afraid he will get some penalties for that early accident, because the administration, the team is responsible for checking the race start. They will find out about this mistake, hitting Björn Wallmeier and then turning in and also crashing in to the car of Daniel Christoph. Somehow Dänicke himself managed to stay in 7th behind Thomas Anjamir Sauer and ahead of Vickos van der Nest, the orange and black McLaren. Kostas Kaludis in 9th position behind him. And they're all still quite close together, but no one tries to make a move against the other one in front. Ricardo Ferreira, the next McLaren in 10th, and Björn Wallmeier now already up to 11th. And Jürgen Wallmeier seems to be in some kind of trouble. They're slow out of the first corner, and there's some touching. That is Kostas Kantsuras. ran a bit wide out of turn 2, and that's the reason why there was some touching between him and Jürgen Wallmeier. Was definitely not on purpose by Katsuras, and now he's trying to make a move against Christoph Müller. Defending 14th position. They're closing in to Matthias Mackenzie. Oh, what's happening there? That's just a slight mistake by Katsuras. And Jürgen Wallmeier is through again, up to 15th. Let's just check if Christoph Müller finds a way past Matthias Mackenzie. He seems to be quicker, but doesn't look like he can make it stick. Facing 13th position. Looking up again for the first 4 drivers, because Rob Timpen, I'm not sure if he's trying to somehow manage now his tires of fuel, because no, don't think so. He said that after the Bathurst race, that he was pushing for a long time until the gap was huge enough so he could take out some aggression in his laps. But no way is slowing down for any reason. Just run. Francisco Nogueira, he is really close behind the McLaren. The Poles are trying desperately to take back that lead. He lost after the first few corners. Slight mistake there by Timpen. Maybe the first chance for Francisco to make a move. No, stays behind. After that really impressive start, Rob Timpen is really showing some nerves against Juan Francisco Nogueira. Almost drifting that Corvette through the double right-hander. What the happen? Good turn 10, now breaking down in that sharp 90-degree right turn. Looks like Juan Francisco just waiting for that slight mistake by Timpen. So he maybe can overtake the Corvette driver. So far it looks pretty good for Awesome Sim Racing again in this first race. Rob Timpen in the lead, and then Christo Niebuhr already in third ahead of Niklas Porbatnik. But Porbatnik is pretty close with his Bentley as well, and there is almost a mistake by Rob Timpen. San Francisco switching lanes on the exit of turn 1. Late under braking, of course, a different lines through this first combination of turns because of the different engine positions. McLaren, of course, with the mid-engine car. Bit better through the corners than the Corvette. The engine in the front. But somehow Timpen found a way to drift this car slightly through the turns, so still maintaining speed. But Porbatnik now is in trouble because he's trying to make a move against Christo Niebuhr, but also is under pressure now by David Haas. So that makes it 5 up here in this group. So it's nearly half-time and they're still pretty close together. Something we didn't see in Bathurst. Sepang is definitely better for close racing. And they're getting away from the rest of the field really, really quick. Here's the fight for 6th position. Stefan Dänicke now maybe already trying to make a move against Thomas Andrea Mirisoa. Andrea Mirisoa on the inside line. Now he somehow has to stay in front, breaking down. No way for Stefan Dänicke to move to the left or right against the AMG driver behind him. That's not Vikus van der Nest. That's the car of Mike Lyra, the white and black Corvette. But we have to get back to that pack in front. Because here these guys are fighting for the podium or even for a race victory. Like we see here with Juan Francisco Guerra against Rob Timpen. The Spanish driver from Storm Racing against Rob Timpen. The Dutch driver racing for Austin Racing in that grey, blue, white and red Corvette. Different line here through that difficult right turn. 114 and now on the back straight. Behind them they also trying to work something out with the slipstream. Nicholas Bobatnik in the Bentley and David Haas closing in even more. That means Bobatnik, the Bentley driver, might be getting even more in trouble because now he has not only looking at the car in front of him but also at the car behind him. It looks a bit like the tires of the Corvette of Rob Timpen are giving in slightly. Really fighting to stay in front of Juan Francisco. I think that's the kind of racing actually Rob Timpen was hoping for. Because of course he was happy about that double victory in Bathurst, but he never really had to fight for it. Took the lead easily, stayed in front seemingly easily. Of course it wasn't that easy than it looked like. But still no pressure from behind, and that's different this time. Let's just watch it from the driver perspective. I had hoped to see a bit in the rear view mirror, but it's taken off our camera view, sadly. Otherwise we would have some top pictures of that McLaren closing in, and there was some mistake under braking and contact between Timpen and Guerra, and he is through. No, he's not through. Looks like the McLaren driver slowed down because he obviously seems, or it looks like he saw that contact as his fault. And let's do the gentleman's agreement. Nice move. That Rob Timpen pass again. But Timpen a bit too late under braking, and now both cars at least have some slight damage. Whilst Christo Niewood dropped down to fourth. because Niklas Provatnik passed him, but there's another move by the Dutch driver and maybe he takes back third position from Provatnik. Niewood on the outside, but he has to slow down a bit, otherwise he would have ended up in the grass and especially wouldn't have a proper line for that right-hander. That gets David Haas even closer. This is some real quality racing we're seeing here at the moment. Tough to figure out where to switch first. Mistake under braking by Provatnik in that hairpin. But somehow covers it against Christian Niewood. And I think David Haas is just waiting. He stays behind a few more car lengths, just waiting what might happen between the two of him, between the two of them in front of him. Of course, you always want to take a position with your own capabilities, your own talents. But if someone in front of you crashes and you get that position easily, they usually don't complain. So maybe he's just waiting for Niewood and Provatnik maybe hitting each other slightly. It would be enough if they both go wide in one of the turns and David Haas could grab maybe fourth or even third position. Let's take a look further down in the grid. With Stefan Deneke in 7th, still chasing Thomas Aniamiaisawa. But of course you have to keep in mind that McLaren of Deneke has some damage. Driver from Laxative Racing Team. Lukas Schürmann and I were discussing that quite funny team name during the race in Bathurst. And Aniamiaisawa already defending against Deneke, who tries to make the move on the outside with the McLaren, but that didn't work out. And we see another attack move by Juan Francisco Noguera, and again some slight contact between him and Rob Timpen. But there's also quite aggressive defending by Timpen, so he definitely leaves no room at all for the McLaren driver. But still, I think kind of okay what they're doing. While Christian Niewood lost another position. And let's find out how that happened. So here's Niewood going wide into the gravel, and he lost a lot of momentum in that moment. David Haas making the move on the inside and taking fourth position from Christian Niewood. So that's how that happened. Of course, pretty good situation now for Niklas Provatnik, because he got away from David Haas by around 1.6 seconds. And that might mean that Provatnik hasn't been much afraid of the slipstream. The drivers behind him they could get, but I don't think they do. Aniamiaisawa still defending against Deneke. Deneke almost going through the grass. Chris van der Nest behind them, and then it's Björn Barnmeier who made it up into the top 10 after that early crash between him and Stefan Deneke. And maybe Barnmeier can take 8th position from van der Nest. But of course that Corvette also has some slight damage after that contact with Deneke. And it's Kostas Kaloudis, currently in 10th, ahead of Ricardo Ferreira in 12th position, the teammate of Thomas Anjamesoa, Linus Lundvall, the Swedish driver ahead of Kostas Katsouras from Storm Racing, the Greek driver. Oh, and that was late under braking. Some strange driving here from everyone. Linus Lundvall through the grass, Kostas Katsouras too late on the brakes. And Christoph Müller watching, but he doesn't take a position due to those problems of the drivers in front of him. From the Cold Fox Racing division, the guys that are responsible for those nice flyers, posters and overlays we got for this series. And they also a small developer studio, German studio. They are developing more platformer game, and there's the accident between Lundvall and Katsouras as well. Lundvall with the spin in the final corner. Kostas Katsouras somehow covers 12th position, but that looked quite strange actually. And let's take a look at that. Oh, that happened. So here is Lundvall. Now turning in, and he was on the outside already, late under braking. And then he obviously tried to close the door against Katsouras, who was already on the inside. And there is the contact causing the spin. I would consider it almost bad luck in that case. 2 centimeters off the front of Kostas Katsouras was still next to the car of Linus Lundvall, trying to cover the inside line. But if there's already a car, like it was in this case, yeah, not much of a chance that this works out without any contact. And that means Katsouras now in 12th, ahead of Christoph Müller. Then it's Linus Lundvall now in 14th. Jürgen Wallmeier up to 15th. Here's Mackenzie in 16th position. And it's Nathan Vandenest, who had a 10-second stop-and-go penalty and might still have a chance to take 16th or 15th position if he is quick enough. About 5 minutes to go. Marco Caglio also with that penalty, why he's so far behind Mike Lyra. We saw that accident, and he also had to come into the pits. And what the hell is going on there? And that's not Daniel Christoph, that's not Nick de Witt. Don't know what happened there. Oh, and Marcelo Tocco. Oh, that was a really weird mistake by the Bentley driver, and I think he's missing a tire or a wheel already. Strange things going on here at the moment. And maybe we can figure out what happened to Tocco. He was on the inside. There's everything okay. Going a bit wide. Oh, just lost the rear of the car slightly and then slamming into the wall. So that's the reason, and the end actually for Marcelo Tocco. Destroyed his car pretty late in this race. That must be frustrating. While there's some action going on up here around 7th position. Dänicke against Björn Wallmeier, and then it's Vikus van der Nest as well. And there was some contact here and there. And I wonder what happened there, so we will take a look at that as well. So there's Dänicke, and he was still in 7th, and then making almost the same mistake as Tocco did, coming into the gravel. There's Andrea Meisoa passing him, And then Nico Svandenest behind him. And then something must have gone wrong now. So there's Vandenest on the inside. Too late under braking, hitting the door of the McLaren of Dänicke. And then Vandenest also going wide, and Björn Wahlmeier took a position from Vikus Vandenest. And Dänicke somehow managed to stay in 7th, but some contact again. And while that happens, there's something going on in 5th and 4th position as well. Christian Niewood and David Haas. Seemed to me like there had been some contact as well. That's already over, and it's not shown in my list of incidents. But David Haas down to 5th again, Christian Niewood in 4th. And Rob Timpen seems to manage to keep Juan Francisco Rano Guerra at bay somehow. McLaren driver now even getting into trouble because there is now Niklas Probatnek closing in with his Bentley. Well, that could mean that the Spanish driver might even lose 2nd position. He's really slow at the moment, which cannot be said about Niklas Probatnek. German driver from the Colt Fox backup squad. He was really fast in Bathurst, so that podium position definitely fits his performance. And this will be the final lap in the first race tonight on the Sepang International Circuit of the GT3 Winter Challenge by RF2 Racingleague. Maybe Juan Francisco was pushing too hard in his McLaren and now has to pay the price. Whilst there is the fight for 9th position, that's Kostas Kaludis against Vikus Vandenest. Nest late under braking, tried to cover the 9th position against Kaludis, and he managed it, but Vikus Vandenest also in with problems. Looks like the McLaren drivers have some issues in the last few minutes of the 30-minute race, at least here in Sepang. Kaludis stays behind. And as I said, it's the final lap. We are in the last sector. Only a few more corners for Rob Timpen, and then it might be his 3rd victory in a row. But that's still not over. Oh, some sliding there and on the rear of Rob Timpen. And still somehow he manages to stay in front of Juan Francisco Rano Guerra. That's his last chance to take a victory. But I think this is over. Rob Timpen late under braking on the outside line, but he had some more momentum and he stays in the lead, and Rob Timpen takes his 3rd victory in the 3rd race of the GT3 Winter Challenge. Awesome racing there between him and Juan Francisco Rano Guerra. Niklas Probatnek finishes in 3rd. Then it's Christian Niewood in 4th, 5th position for David Haas. Thomas Aniamisoa finishes in 6th in front of Stefan Dänicke. Then it's Björn Wahlmeier in 7th, 8th position for Kostas Kaludis. And what is Vikus Vandenest doing? A spin out of the final corner. Oh, he's losing the car again now. Switching into reverse. It's unbelievable. He's losing a position. He's just parking in front of the start and finish line, and he is out. It always when I think I saw everything, but he finished in 10th. So Kostas Kaludis passed him, and then these few millimeters, maybe even. He somehow put the right side of his car on the start and finish line. Somehow gave him 10th position before he stopped the car. Christoph Müller in 11th. Then it's 12th position for Kostas Kantsuras. 30th position for Linus Lundvall. Nathan van der Nest in 14th. Then it's Jürgen Wallmeier. 15th position in front of Matthias Mackenzie. Marco Caglio finishes just in this moment in 17th position and already through Mike Lyra, Nick David. It's Ricardo Ferreira, Marcelo Tocco and Daniel Christoph, but Tocco and Christoph were out of the race earlier, and yeah, Ferrero for unknown reasons also didn't see the checkered flag. And here's the race winner, Rob Timpen. Of course, now for the second race he also needs to make such an impressive start again, because he will start from 4th position again. And I'm not so sure if this will work out again, especially now everyone knows how good he is at the start. So maybe the drivers will cover the inside line more aggressively than they usually do. Coming into the pits. We're waiting for switching to the warm-up and then the second race start. Until then, we'll take a short break. Hope you stay with us. And we will be back in a few minutes with the second race start here in the Sepang International Circuit of the GT3 Winter Challenge. So, and we are back with the last few minutes of the warm-up session for race number 2. And while this is the going maybe a bit more about some of the details of the last race in Bathurst, because as you saw, our short video somehow didn't work properly. Which is sad, of course, because Lukas Schürmann put some, not only he, but also Björn Wallmeier and Lukas Schürmann put some work into it. But it's interesting to see that most of the drivers this time finished, because in Bathurst, well, that's always the same with that Australian crazy track over the Mount Panorama. That caused a lot of incidents, and especially caused a lot of drivers not to finish the race. I think it was in the end 15 drivers that finished the first race and more than 10 drivers that dropped out because of some accidents. Maybe, for example, Juan Francisco Rano Guerra. He didn't finish in both races in Bathurst, and now he was fighting for the lead, or he took even the pole position, and he will have it for the second race in a few minutes as well. So maybe this time it will work out. He definitely will hope for the other drivers behind him to keep Rob Timpen at bay, that it works out this time. Niklas Pobatnik will be behind him, and then it's Björn Wallmeier, and then Rob Timpen from 4th position. Thomas Andriamia Soa. He had some trouble in the preseason race in Suzuka. That didn't work out pretty well, but in Bathurst showed his potential. 7th and a 4th place. Saw that quality racing from Niklas Pobatnik. First race this evening, but we also have to take a look at Nathan van der Nest for round number 2. We'll start in a few seconds, because he finished in 5th and 2nd in Bathurst and only in 14th now, but that is because of the 10-second stop and go penalty he got from Bathurst. So this time doesn't have to come into the pits for this second race. Maybe a good chance for the driver from South Africa. Get not only into the top 10, but maybe also making a chase for the podium. Van der Nest will start from 10th position. Daniel Christoph and David Haas in front of him, and of course Christoph will try to finish in this second race, because that early accident with Stefan Denecke took him out of the race. And while trying to improve his starting technique for race number 2. Well, if you start a bit further behind the rest of the grid, it usually doesn't make such much sense to focus on starting quick, but more focusing on starting safe. And Linus Lundvall, he will start from 17th position, so that's not really place where you're looking forward to jump to the left or to the middle. Another position wouldn't be so good because otherwise you jump into the grass and that won't help for a start. But now the lights are off and we are racing second race, and this time it's not a good start from Dr. Not a good start at all. Oh, there it is again in second again, but now this time I don't think it will work out against Juan Francisco Noguera, and he stays in first. There's Björn Wahlmeier on the outside now against Powatnik. Powatnik keeps the distance to Wahlmeier, and then Wahlmeier is he through in third. Behind him, that's Christo Niewood. Then David Haas again with the Comet already in sixth position, and Björn Wahlmeier on the outside now in trouble. Christo Niewood. Now there's the right-hander coming up, and Niewood with the chance to make a move against Wahlmeier. He's also making a move against Powatnik, but Niewood saves it under braking, not hitting the back of the Bentley of Niklas Powatnik, and now up to fourth position past Björn Wahlmeier. David Haas in fifth, then it's sixth position now for Kostas Katsouris, and some trouble in the back of the race if I'm not mistaken. We had a few slow moments for some of the drivers, but mostly everyone is still racing, so some position changes, but no spins or crashes. That's good to know, but there's the first bump coming from Kostas Katsouras, hitting the back of David Haas, but just slightly. Not much that happened that moment. And now it's Juan Noguera, who is in the lead ahead of Rob Timpen. And we saw that Juan Francisco was a bit quicker in the end of the race in comparison to Rob Timpen, but the really fast driver in the last few minutes, that was Niklas Powatnik. Powatnik again already quick underway ahead of Christo Niewood. Björn Wahlmeier, he will be happy that this time the start worked out, and he is in fifth position. David Haas, but David Haas is getting in trouble because Kostas Katsouris, after a slight mistake, already closing in again. And Stefan Dänicke behind him. That's a bit difficult to keep these two cars the distance between, or somehow figure out in which team these guys are driving, because Kostas Katsouras, he's driving for Storm Racing, and it's Stefan Dänicke for Laxative Racing. Oh, and what happened here? Kostas Katsouris, that must have been a slight disconnect for just a few seconds, and then now he dropped behind Thomas Andriamiaisoa. Yeah, I just checked in the stream. That was weird. Luckily no one crashed into him when he came back on the track. Now it's Katsouras down to 9th position behind Thomas Andriamiaisoa. Stefan Dänicke in front, and then Nathan van der Nest, who kept 10th position. Already some really huge improvement by Linus Lundvall. Started from 16th, if I'm not mistaken, and took 11th, and there's the fight for 12th. Vikus van der Nest in black and orange McLaren with some slight contact against Marco Canglio, who doesn't have a 10-second stop and go penalty this time, so he can drive freely and fight for those positions. And now he's up to 12th against Vikus van der Nest. Nick de Wit in 14th behind, and There's much more fighting going on in the positions further down the grid. Kostas Kaludis behind Nick Divitt. Then it's Ricardo Ferreira, chased by Matthias Mackenzie. Jürgen Wahlmeier in the grey and black Corvette. He has to fight against Mike Lyra, and there's almost the move by Mike Lyra on Matthias Mackenzie with the mistake in the grass, and the car is spinning, and Mackenzie ends up in the wall. Marcelo Tocco also passing him, and Matthias Mackenzie is out of the race as well as Christoph Müller. And there's the next fighting going on. Nick Divitt against Kostas Kaludis. Ricardo Ferreira behind. They're fighting for 14th position. We are on board with Ricardo Ferreira. This McLaren against the two Corvette C7R. Nick Divitt, the DW Racing driver, close in front of Ricardo Ferreira, racing for Lusitanium Sim Racing. The Portuguese driver, almost hitting the back of the car of Nick Divitt. As we mentioned in the first race in Bathurst, it's drivers from 13 countries, from 13 different countries racing against each other. I think it's always something like this is a real good statement for showing that sim racing or esports in general, they don't care about borders, they don't care about nationalities, they only care for proper competition and, in this case, racing. And these guys, they of course driving against each other, but there's always that thing that you have to keep in mind. They're also racing with each other, because everyone is of course in the TeamSpeak channels, and they talk to each other after that race if something happened, or if they just want to congratulate someone else for his victory. And that's something you can find, or you usually don't find in real racing. That's something different with the esports or the sim racing. The direct contact between everyone, between the drivers, between the administration, maybe even between the commentator. So maybe next time, just to all you drivers who maybe watch this later, don't hesitate to come into my channel, but please, of course, after the race, now we can talk about sim racing. I'm a racer myself, but not on rFactor 2. Whilst Marco Caglio drops down to 11th position, overtaken by Linus Lundvall. So now both drivers from Seawolf Racing in the top 10. Thomas Andrea Miyazawa in 9th, and his teammate Linus Lundvall in 10th behind. And in front, that's Kostas Kaludis. CS Off Racing by Whisker Esports. Finished in 10th in the second Bathurst race. So he is definitely one of the top 10 drivers. There's Christoph Müller in the YouTube chat. And it sounds frustrated. Not sure what happened at the start. Maybe a technical issue. I hope he will inform us about what happened while we're looking at the fight for 6th position. David Haas against Stefan Dänicke. Dänicke again in 7th position. But this time, I think not really damage to the car, because this time he didn't have an accident. First few corners. So he is chasing the Corvette driver David Haas. Juan Francisco Ranogera is already about 4 seconds ahead of Rob Timpin, so now he shows his real potential with the McLaren in this second race. And that might put a quick end to that victory streak of Rob Timpen. Maybe Timpen has to be careful because there's Niklas Pobatnik in his Bentley, who shows some interest in this second position in the second race. And the information by Christoph Müller, so one of the Costas cars. It's a bit difficult because Costas Kaludis and Costas Katsouras are both with the same name, and so sometimes mixing things up. It's Kaludis in the Corvette and Katsouras in the McLaren, so maybe this helps. And he crashed into the car of Marcelo Tocco, and the car was done for. So that's the reason why Christoph Müller is out of the race so early. Thanks for the information. Back to the action on the track, and well, Niklas Pobatnik, of course, he saw the fight between Juan Francisco Ranogera and Rob Timpen, and he knows how tough it will be to take a position from Rob Timpen. And currently it's just chasing but not attacking for Niklas Pobatnik. Christo Niebuhr in fourth, followed by Björn Wahlmeier, and it's David Haas. Raced by Stefan Dänicke. Haas from the Dollar Bull team. The Dutch driver who had a pretty good result in Bathurst, finished in second and in seventh position with his white and black Corvette. His teammate Oscar Konen not with us tonight. Hopefully we'll see him in the third round next year. And David Haas now defending into the final corner against Stefan Dänicke. Still, he stays in sixth position, and we have a fight for 10th. And that's Marco Caglio against Linus Lundvall. Linus Lundvall on the outside into the hairpin. That's a strange line. Maybe he tries to catch up more momentum out of the corner. There's some slight contact between him and Caglio, and Caglio takes 11th position. No, 10th position from Linus Lundvall, and Lundvall also dropping down behind Nathan van der Nest, who closes the door on the outside, under braking into turn 1. That means Lundvall now down to 12th position, followed by Lukas van der Nest. So again, also some fighting going on behind the top 10, as we saw it in the first race already. And there's also a fight for, in Germany you would say, the Red Lantern. Oh, and what's going on there? There's a car parking, and that's Ricardo Ferreira. And Ferreira's McLaren isn't doing anything, but moving, nothing. Now he's going again. That's strange. Maybe park the car. Some urgent issue in real life, or maybe his hardware broke down. I think the latter was the case, and that's the end for Ricardo Ferreira. He's out of this race as well. While it's Lukas van der Nest now is in trouble because he tries to chase Linus Lundvall, but he's also chased himself by Costas Kaludis. Oh, Linus Lundvall with a mistake. Ooh, and that's some hard rejoin on the track by the Seawolf Racing AMG driver. But almost ended up in an accident between him and Lukas van der Nest. Somehow he saved it. Nick de Wit behind on 15th. He is also chased by Mike Lyra. But it's tough to figure out where actually switch with our cameras, because there's some fighting going on everywhere. Ludus took a look on the inside against Lukas van der Nest. But no move here, but there's the attack by Mike Lyra on the outside against Nick de Wit. But Nick de Wit covers it. Stays in 15th. One of the card world driver. Great racing again. And can we see from that perspective of Lukas van der Nest? No. Sadly, we don't have that rear view camera. Otherwise, there would be a chance to see Nick de Wit behind him as well. But de Wit dropped behind anyway. No, it's Kostas Kaludis. Kostas Kaludis dropped down to 16th position, and that was off our camera, and we will take a look at that. But let me take a look at that. So here we are, that's the McLaren of Lukas van der Nest, and that's Kaludis behind him. And he touched the curb with the entire car, and that caused his Corvette into a spin. That's the reason why Kostas Kaludis is now down to 16th position. But back to this fight, and now Mike Lyra makes the move on the inside through Nick de Wit, and he takes 14th position from the DW Racing driver. His white and blue Corvette down to 15th. And let's take another look at that. So that was Mike Lyra in the slipstream of de Wit. And late under braking, very late under braking. Reaction there by de Wit to keep the door open. I was close to a so-called dive bomb. Now Mike Lyra is up to 12th. Back on top, there's Juan Francisco Noguera, and he's now away from Rob Timpin more than 8 seconds. So now the Spanish driver is really showing his potential and what he's capable of. Rob Timpin, no way for the Corvette driver catch that guy in the McLaren. And he has some different problems anyway. Bentley of Niklas Provatnik in particular behind him, who showed his very constant performance through the first race. Oh, he managed that this Bentley works really good over the entire distance, and not only in the first 20 minutes and then somehow nearly breaking down because of the tires or something else. He somehow managed to keep up the pace, and that put Noguera in the first race in trouble, with Provatnik finishing in third in the end. Now he's already in the slipstream of the Corvette of Rob Timpen, but we saw how tough it is to overtake Rob Timpen. It was really some tough fighting between him and San Francisco. So now maybe that's the same Niklas Powatnik has to expect for his tries to make it up to second position here in the second race this evening. The GT3 Winter Challenge of RF2 Racingleague. Further down, Stefan Dänicke just took 6th position from David Haas. Well, let's just wait out for this. Right now from Powatnik in the slipstream of the Corvette. Rob Timpen takes a different line from the outside. That worked very well for Powatnik. That Corvette seemed to be a little quicker than the Bentley. That means Niklas Powatnik stays in 3rd behind. David Haas close to Stefan Dänicke, but not past Stefan Dänicke. And let's see how that happens. So that was the lap before. Stefan Dänicke in the slipstream of the Corvette of David Haas. It's a simple move out of the slipstream, braking on the inside. And that's how Stefan Dänicke took 6th position from David Haas. And looks like he can keep it. For now. Oh, let's get back to that fight for second position. Niklas Powatnik against Rob Timpen. It's interesting to see Powatnik with that slight mistake. He didn't hit the apex of that left-hander and just ran a bit wide. It's already caused a few car lengths a distance more for Rob Timpen. So that's the level these guys are racing on. You miss one slight part of the track for even 20 or 30 centimeters, and that already means the other driver somehow gets away from you or gets even closer. This time it was better for Rob Timpen, but of course it can go the other way around if Rob Timpen makes that kind of slight mistake as well. Closer fight is going on between Björn Wahlmeier and Christian Niebuhr. Wahlmeier at least trying to take back 4th position from the RC Racing driver. As we are getting nearer to the end of the second race, there will be a link for voting the driver of the day, and I hope I get a chance to post that link in the YouTube chat. Hope this will work, because it's also free for viewers, not only for drivers. The best driver of the day. I think I know who has a good chance to win that title this evening. But I won't say it. Just no, don't wanna cause some influences on anyone who's watching right now. So Björn Wahlmeier still behind Mr. Niewood, but it looks like Niewood is as hard to attack as his teammate Rob Timpen. Of course, Niklas Pobatnik knows that he has third position at the moment, and third position is really good, so you are careful not pushing too hard, not trying to make a stupid move, but taking that position home is very important as well, especially at the end of the season. Each point can count, and if we now push hard in this last few minutes and make a mistake, the other drivers are not that far behind. Christo Niewood, less than 4 seconds behind, placed by Björn Wahlmeier. So Niklas Pobatnik, if he makes one bigger mistake, he maybe drops down to 5th position or even further down the grid. Maybe it's more like waiting for a mistake by Rob Timpen. But if he had looked closely at the fight of Juan Francisco Nogueira and Rob Timpen, I think he must have figured out that mistakes by Rob Timpen are really scarce. Not much of a mistake to expect there. So I think Niklas Pobatnik has to fight for this by himself, and there was a slight mistake by Christo Niewood. Some drifting out of the final corner that cost him some momentum. Maybe a chance for Björn Wahlmeier to make a move now for 4th position against Christo Niewood. He has to take the outside line, maybe now make a crisscross. Doesn't work, and Niewood stays in 4th, but that was close. Not missing, they're not hitting the apex properly in turn number 2, but Niewood manages to stay in 4th ahead of Björn Wahlmeier. It looks like both awesome racing drivers, Rob Timpen and Christo Niewood, shows a pretty aggressive setup for their Corvette. Always see them sliding slightly at least. It seems to work. Maybe he puts the right temperature in the rear tires. But of course, when it goes wrong, you're in trouble. Saw that out of the final corner last round when Björn Wahlmeier tried to make that move in turn 1. Because of that, and Niklas Pobatnik is close to Rob Timpen again. On the back straight in the slipstream of that Corvette, Niklas Pobatnik coming up for the final corner. The long hairpin, already touching the brakes before the braking spot, just to make go be safe for the braking spot in the final corner. There was already some slight contact, if I'm not mistaken, because Pobatnik kept it to the inside line. And we're in the final lap of the second race. Pobatnik still looking for 2nd position. Behind the two of them, It's now Björn Wallmeier and Stefan Dänicke. Oh, and there's the contact, and Niklas Pobatnik hitting the back of Rob Timpen. And now it's Rob Timpen spinning out again from the grass. And who are the big profiteers of this accident? It's Björn Wallmeier and Stefan Dänicke. And I don't know where Christian Niewood suddenly ended up, because he's now in 17th, so something went wrong for Christian Niewood. And before I could somehow ask that question, this accident happened. Hard to tell if actually Rob Timpen was early on the brakes, surprisingly early, or it was just Niklas Pobatnik extremely late on the brakes. Was hard to tell from that perspective. But that means Björn Wallmeier now heading for second position, followed by Stefan Dänicke. And maybe it's now David Haas also taking a position from Pobatnik. Of course, that Bentley has some damage on the front right now. Oh, there's the contact between Haas and Pobatnik, and he turns the Bentley driver, or sends the Bentley driver into a spin, slowing down. So fair gesture there by David Haas, and Francisco Noguera takes the victory here in race number 4 of the GT3 Winter Challenge. Race number 2 here in Sepang, and breaks that winning streak from Rob Timpen. Björn Wallmeier in second, and Stefan Dänicke finishes in third. Rob Timpen in fourth, and he will be annoyed, and you can see it, he just destroys his car in the wall. The same as with Niklas Pobatnik, who ends up in fifth. Then it's David Haas in sixth, seventh position for Thomas Andriamiaisoa. Kostas Kansouras in eighth. Ninth position now for Nathan van der Nest. 10th for Marco Caglio, in front of Mike Lyra, and followed by Nick Dewitt. And it's Kostas Kaloudis now, still chased by Vikas van der Nest, but Kaloudis takes 13th position in front of van der Nest. Linus Lundvall only in 15th. Marcelo Tocco, this time no accident, and he ends up in 16th. And there's Jürgen Wallmeier. And Christian Niewood out of the race very late in this whole event, and I will just try to figure out what happened to Christo Niewood. He was really slow, so now we can take a look. There is Niewood. He's coming out of the final corner, and there's the car slowing down, rolling out on the inside. And is there no more fuel? Yeah, the car broke down. The car just simply broke down. No more power, nothing, no gear, anything. So that's the reason why Christian Niewood is out of the race. So maybe some misjudgment considering the fuel. But of course now this gives us the chance to take a look at that crash between Timpen and Pobatnik as well. So here we are with the slow motion, and let's take a look from here. So coming up for that corner, and let's see, there's the braking from Timpen, and there comes the braking from Pobatnik, and he just slams into the wall of Timpen, and I think they were both a bit too late, and just Pobatnik even later, and that caused that accident, and that presented Björn Wallmeier and Stefan Dänicke second and third position. So some surprise end result in this second race. We would take another short break now, and then of course we return with our interviews of the podium drivers, and that means Juan Francisco Rano, of course, Rob Timpen, Niklas Pobatnik, Björn Wallmeier and Stefan Dänicke will be with us hopefully in a few minutes. So please stay with us for the final interviews. We'll be back just in a few moments. Okay, we are back with the interviews of our podium drivers this evening on the Sepang circuit. Björn Warmeyer is still not with us. He is just gone out smoking, but that's okay. If you get a second position in a race, surprisingly, after a more or less disastrous first run, that's definitely okay. And that gives us the opportunity to start with the driver who I think will take the event victory after the problems of Rob Timpen in the second race, and that's Juan Francisco Rano Guerra. Juan, congratulations to that victory in the second race and position 2 in race number 1, and especially in this second race you showed that you were definitely the quickest driver on the track tonight. But I think the more entertaining race for you was the first one rather than the second.
Thank you very much. Was a very difficult first race. I have a lot of fights with Rob Timpen. I don't pass him. He was very fast in strides. And second race it was very more easy because I was in first position, and I can to gain gap with the others guys, and then it was very more easy than the first race. The race was very exciting with the fights with Rob. And I am happy with the result for the team.
Yeah, definitely good team result, and of course a very, very good result for you. So this was it with the GT3 Winter Challenge for this year. It will continue on January 20th. Then we will be in Sakir, and Yeah, first of all, Juan, will you be there, and what are your expectations?
This championship is very competitive. Most people have a very good pace, and I am happy competing in sim racing races, and very happy with this result. I have a lot of bad luck in the first races because I did some mistakes, but next better, and now I am in the podium.
Yeah, and even a victory, and that means you broke that victory streak of Rob Timpen. So that's also a first, at least in the GT3 Winter Challenge. So, Juan, then I only say with congratulations again to that victory in second position, to that very good podium, and of course the event victory in this case, because Rob Timpen didn't finish in second race. And I thank you for the interview.
Thank you very much.
So let's continue with the driver who won the first race and almost got in second in the second race, but then there was a crash, and I already heard you were fighting. I hope you don't. So Rob Timpen, your third victory in a row. Was it in the first race this evening? But it was some really tough defending against Juan Francisco. Second race, yeah, up to second, but then it was more defending against Niklas Pobatnik, which went wrong in the last few corners, so to say. Rob Timpen, but both times you had some really impressive starts, and congratulations for the result. But how on earth did you manage that start in the first race?
Yeah, thank you. I guess it's just, having a good launch, really. I don't know, I had good launches in Suzuka. At Bathurst, we couldn't really get it done. And here in Sepang, everything worked again. So, yeah, I'm happy with my start.
Yeah, and I guess also pretty happy about that victory. But I guess you now need a shower after that fighting against Juan Francisco in race number 1, and then Juan Francisco was away in the lead in race number 2, but then it was Niklas all behind you all the time. So a lot of defending for you this time.
Yeah, I mean, the races were really bad. The car is bad. Our tires were wearing like crazy. Just had no grip. I was really surprised to stay where I was in race 1 to be in first and race 2 to be second as long as I did. We just couldn't get the setup working. But yeah, race 1, I think race 1 I got really lucky, grabbing that lead in the first lap and then just keeping front away, no behind me. I don't know how I did it, but yeah, I still got it done. And race 2, yeah, it could have been second, but unfortunately, small incident, and we both, I spun, and Nicholas waited, but yeah, it is what it is. Still good results. There's nothing to complain for me, really.
Okay, that's good to hear. But do you know what happened to Christo in the second race? Because in the last, I think the second to last lap, he somehow stopped his car. So did he run out of fuel, or what happened?
No, unfortunately, he blew up the engine.
Oh.
Yeah, so shame for the team points, but.
Okay, that's unfortunate, but we expected something like that. Yeah, same question to you now, or final question. What are your expectations for Sakia next year?
I have no idea. It's not a track I really enjoy, so I'll wait and see what happens. Hopefully we'll get a setup working at least. That will be something. Make the tires last. But yeah, testing will tell that.
Okay, so of course now there is some time for testing till the next race, more than a month. So maybe then to figure out what happened or what went wrong today with the setup. The racing didn't went wrong, so congratulations again. One victory and fourth position this evening. Rob Timpin, and I thank
very
you
much.
for the interview as well.
No problem.
Then we coming up to Niklas Porbatnik, who finished in third in race number 1 and almost finished third in race number 2, but then there was that accident with Rob Timpin, which caused a 5th position in the end. Congratulations as well, Niklas. Yeah, somehow you were always the one with the Bentley who was stuck behind, but somehow didn't made it to pass the other driver in front of you. Still a good result from your view, or did you hope for more?
First of all, I'm really sorry for the incident in race 2. I ran out of braking meters. I don't know. I did not even try to overtake in this corner. To be honest, I'm not sure what happened, and it's a very unnecessary and unusual mistake for me. So I'm really sorry for Rob. I'm not really sure what happened there, but I will watch the replay tomorrow. And now I forgot your questions, to be honest.
Yeah, the result from the first race, of course, third position. That surprised, or was that hoping for a podium, or did you think you could have gone even faster?
I don't think so. To be honest, I was planning with like top 8 result, and I was quite surprised by missing the pole by less than a tenth, or 100, not a tenth, 100. So I was quite surprised about my pace, to be honest. So with race 1, I'm way more than happy. But
okay,
then there was race 2, unfortunately.
Yeah, still better than 8th position, but of course I can understand that an accident and maybe caused by you always is not a good feeling. So I hope you'll figure everything out with Rob, and maybe the replay shows what went wrong in detail. But of course, now for you, the same question, Niklas Porbatnik. Next race in January 20th, then in Sakir. What are your expectation with the Bentley? Because it looked like the Bentley was working pretty well over the entire 30-minute distance.
To be honest, I've struggled with the tires after like 8 or 9 laps in both races. But I'm actually not sure about the expectations for Sakir, but I'm aiming again for points, to be honest. I'm not really liking the track so much, so we will see.
Yeah, probably you're not the only one. So let's see, maybe that puts you back up into a good position in the end. This time, of course, a podium. Congratulations, Niklas Porbatnik, and thank you for the interview as well.
Thank you.
And now we are coming to the, well, first unfortunate and then in the second race fortunate driver, and that's Björn Wallmeier. Björn, congratulations, second place in race number 2. I guess a bit unexpected. And the first race you had that accident with Stefan Dänecke right at the beginning of the race, and made it up to 8th position in the end. So still quite a good result considering the accident. Björn, satisfied with the result, or a bit annoyed about that accident in race number 1?
Yes, in race 1 I was very unlucky, as you said at the start, with the accident. And in the second race, luck came to me. I was really surprised that Christo that I could pass Christo at the last lap when he stopped, and then I've seen 2 cars in front of me off the track in the last lap, and I was confused. My first thought was if the race is already over, but it was really the last lap.
So yeah, unlucky in race number 1, very lucky in race number 2. Satisfied in the end because it even was 8th position in race number 1. That was still okay, I guess, because you dropped down to almost last position after the first few corners.
Yes, I'm overall very happy.
Did you expect to end up so far up in this race, or were some mixed expectations for Sepang?
My goal was to be in the top 6. I could have done it in the first race without the accident, but in second race I could show that I can follow up the other drivers.
Okay, and so with a constant performance in race number 2, you ended up in second. Congratulations again. Last question, as always, what are your expectations for Sakia?
Oh, difficult to say. I hope to be in the leading pack, but I don't know. It's a new track, a new chance, and we will see.
Okay, new challenge for a lot of drivers, I think. Not so well known, at least when it comes to GT racing, Sakia next year. But Björn Malmeier, congratulations again, and thank you for the interview as well.
Thank you.
And then the last but not least, Stefan Dänicke with us as well. Third position in race number 2. So you were the second lucky driver behind Björn Wallmeier. First race, it was the accident between him and you in the first corner, and then you had another touch with the car, I think, of Daniel Christoph. In the end, you still made it up to 7th, Stefan. Satisfied with the result, or does this accident early on, somehow, and a bit annoyed about that?
Okay, first, my English is very bad. I hope I can your question give an answer. First, congratulations at the podium drivers from the first and the second race. And today, my race day at the first, I have the problem. I drive with a little bit too much heck wing. And second problem, it's for me the starting cars. No, I lost in the first race 3 places, and in the second 3, maybe 4 places. I don't know. And so I'm very happy with the places in the first and second race. At the first race, I say too much heck wing, and in the second race, thanks to Nicholas and Rob for a little bit gift. I'm very happy.
Yeah, so even though there was that early accident, still happy about the result. That's nice to hear. I don't want to push your English for much further, but of course, also the question to you. What do you think about Sakia? Do you know the track, and do you like it, or is it a complete new challenge for you?
No, I don't like it, Sakia. It's a new challenge. I drive in my sim racing career not so many Formula 1 tracks. I like this not so much. I am so happy when we drive Bathurst, Le Mans. This tracks I like. Or maybe top 10. I hope so.
Okay, so that at least sounds like a clear goal, and as we figured out, not really some drivers enjoyed racing Sakia or see it as a new challenge, so maybe there will be some changes in the results in the end after all. But Stefan Dänicke, congratulations again, and then thank you for the interview as well. And we are at the end of our broadcast for tonight. So that's been it for this year for the GT3 Winter Challenge by RF2 Racing League. I'm still checking if we got that link for the driver of the day, but I don't know, can't find it. Maybe Björn knows something, but otherwise, we will be back with GT3 racing in January 20th. Then we will be in Sakia, the Bahrain circuit, and that means again 2 30-minute races, same how it was this time. And if we don't hear each other again, of course, have a nice Christmas time and have a well way into the new year, and then we will be back in January. Thanks for watching. If you liked the broadcast, we'll be happy if you give us a thumbs up, and if you didn't so far, E1 Media currently it's not still our different channel, but of course we will send the broadcast over this one, so please subscribe, and then still have a great Sunday night. Bye.